All right, and we are live. Hello, everyone who's joining us today. Today, we're gonna talk about SigmaPoint and engineering and lots of interesting topics. With us today is Paula, who's the Director of Human Resources at SigmaPoint. She has a lot of interesting things to talk to you about, and we're just gonna give a few minutes for everybody to join us. So, if you have friends who are interested, make sure to remind them that we're getting started. And mention everybody you know who could benefit from this because I wouldn't want to miss this if I were you. I see a couple of people joining us today. Let's get it going, guys. We're gonna give it 5 more minutes and then we're gonna kick it off.
Okay.
And as always, remember that if you have any questions, we're gonna leave space towards the end for a Q&A. I'm sure you're going to have lots of questions, so we're prepared, but please write your questions down as we go because answering them live is going to benefit everybody. I see more people joining. Hello, everyone. And I'm just going to say this in Arabic for people who are joining us who might be not speaking English. الويبينار حتكون عم نحكيها بالإنجلش بس حيكون في ترجمة للعربي بس نخلص. As I said, there's going to be an Arabic translation for the webinar when we finish. So, I see more people joining. Hello, everyone. All right. 2 more minutes. We're not going to keep you waiting for long, Paula. How are you today?
That's okay. No problem. No problem.
I'm going to take this time to remind everyone, if you're interested in international employment opportunities, remember to keep up to date with us through Facebook and Instagram. That's where we share some of the ongoing opportunities that we're hiring for. And if you are not registered yet, please go to tbbtown.org and create a profile. This is going to allow us to find your profile based on your skills and connect you with international employers who would like to hire you to help you relocate to another country. Currently, we're operating in Canada, Australia, and the UK, and we're expanding our services slowly to other countries. So if you're interested, stay in touch with us, and if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments or the private DM. Hello, Ayman. We see comments already. Hello, everyone. I think we can get started. Paula, I think I have talked too much, so the stage is yours right now. Please, thank you for joining us today, but feel free to introduce yourself and get this going. We're very happy to have you with us, and officially the stage is yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm Paula Fontaine. I'm the Director of Human Resources for SigmaPoint Technologies here in Cornwall, Ontario, Canada. It's quite chilly here this morning, -7 degrees Celsius. So it's snowing. So it's wonderful. I have my blinds behind me closed. So today I'm hoping to shed a little bit of light on those individuals who are looking to relocate to Canada for various reasons. I've been lucky enough to be partnered with TBB now for the past, I'm going to say 6 or 7 months. I have 2 candidates joining me in the new year, and we're very excited to be welcoming these 2 individuals and their families to Canada and to start a new life and supporting SigmaPoint and our future business. I've been with SigmaPoint now for 14 years, a little over 14 years, and have seen tremendous growth with the organization. And I think SigmaPoint has a great future. I think we're going to continue to grow and evolve and change. As everybody knows, technology changes so quickly. Don't put down your phone 1 minute. It's going to be a new version of that phone the next minute. So that's the beauty of SigmaPoint. We're always changing and we're always growing. So the role of engineers here within our organization, we have everything from chemical to civil to mechanical engineers. They do look at processes, they look at our products, they are defining work processes, they work changing our work instructions for both the operators and inspectors. They're always keeping safety in mind as they change processes. They work on approving substitute parts for us if we're trying, and everybody knows the way the supply chain world is going right now. It's hard to find chips and microchips and caps and components. And so we often have our engineers getting involved with suppliers, with the customers to approve different parts because we can't source them anymore. So they're very heavily involved, all the engineers in different areas of the company, both looking at developing fixtures. They look at developing wave palettes for us. They're highly engaged into customer calls when there's challenges with the customer builds. So the product engineers are heavily involved with the customers at the early onset of a new customer coming on board, and right to the end, to the final build. So whether they're civil, chemical, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, it's the brains that we love. It's the way they think. It's the way they troubleshoot problems. And these are the brains that we're looking for, is people that can really see through what we're facing and help us to get to the other side. So what ways that the international candidates contribute? I think what they bring is new ideas, fresh ideas, different work experiences. They bring not only just their education, because it's vast and it's awesome, but they also bring their own culture. And Canada is a truly diverse country, and I think SigmaPoint has the most diverse workforce here in Cornwall. And I love hearing about their world life experiences and where they've gone and where they've been and how they've got to where they are. So I think that's what these new candidates can bring to not just SigmaPoint, but to any workplace in Canada. Some of the challenges that they've had, I think it's similar to any challenges when you go somewhere new. If you uproot your family and you take them to a new city, the kids, getting into schools, it's new people, it's a new city. It's just integrating. It's getting to know the people that you're working with. English is a tough language. We have so many innuendos and subtleties. And it's hard to integrate into that, but it takes time. It's like anything else. If you put the effort into learning about the different cultures in Canada, you'll do fine. I don't think there's any issue there. We are a very welcoming society in Canada. We love people from different backgrounds and different cultures, and I think it just makes us a better country altogether. With my job here in hiring candidates with an engineering background, I mean, I've met so many people over the last 14 years. But what I really truly look for nowadays is mainly people with their bachelor's in any discipline. Like I said, chemical, mechanical, electrical. I'm looking for those bachelor degrees. I'm looking for people that have easily transferable skills. So advanced Excel skills are huge. If you don't know Excel, you better learn it because everybody's using Excel these days. Programming is really, truly helpful too to some of the engineers. If they have some programming background, it really does help them. If they have project management skills or have taken courses in project management, that's becoming more and more critical. So whether you use it at work, project management, if you learn the course, if you take those courses in project management, you will use it for the rest of your life. Your honey-do list at home, your wife wants you to renovate that bathroom or that kitchen, the project management skills will come into play. Believe it or not, it's a lifelong learning, project management. You will use it not just at work, but at home. And we find that those people that have that background, that analytical brain, they flourish. They do extremely well. And being able to apply your education in the work setting is very crucial. So yes, you've taken the books and the education, the course, but being able to take the books and the studies and the courses that you've taken and apply them in the work experience is really worth noting and talking about at the chance of the interview. Some soft skills. What can we talk about soft skills? So being open-minded, being flexible, the ability to adapt, to change, pivot, move forward. I mean, here at SigmaPoint, we're changing constantly. We're having to evolve and change constantly because technology is changing. So being able to pivot and move forward and not get hooked up on what's happened in the past, and moving forward to that change is really good. Collaborative. I mean, team player is the most overused term in industry today. Everybody's a team player. But showing it, being collaborative, having that thought process of being a collaborative approach to problem solving, and then using an example of how you've used it is worth noting, is worth talking about. Show what you've done, explain it. You've always come across people that, you know, are maybe a roadblock or an obstacle. Talk about how you overcame those obstacles, how you pushed through that, you know, that person who was sort of that negative person. Those are real world experiences that you should talk to and explain, and how you overcame them. Because just saying you're a team player is one thing, but showing it and talking about it and how you used your collaborative approach to problem solving, it speaks volumes. How can you improve your CV? Well, keep it to one page. I'll tell you, I spend probably less than 2 minutes reading a resume. So it really needs to speak to the person who's reading it. So keep it short, and you probably will have 5 or 10 versions of your CV. That's okay, because each CV should speak to the job that you're applying for, and use words that are part of the job ad. Because as employers write job ads, they're looking for key characteristics and specifics about what they want in the job. So if you have that in your portfolio, use those words in your resume. It really needs to speak to the reader, and it needs to do it in a very short period of time. Really catching their attention for sure. The one question I had was, how do I prepare for a case interview? It would be difficult, but being true, being honest about your experience is key. A good interviewer can see through that if you're trying to, you know, kind of mush through the information, or you're trying to elaborate when you really don't have that experience. Those types of people are easily read, and we can see through it very quickly. So just don't take the words from their website or their job ad. Say something, and say something that's true to you. Don't be nervous. It's difficult, I know, sometimes at an interview. Don't be nervous, but remember, they've called you for an interview because of your resume. And now you're just selling and saying what you've put into your resume. So you're selling yourself at an interview, and some people find it really hard to talk about themselves, to say, hey, well, look what I've done and how good I am. But again, this is your moment to shine. Speak true. The heart never lies. So talk about your world experiences or your life experiences. It's good to be to talk about yourself. I know it's hard, but be proud of this, and always talk from the heart. The heart never lies, and this will come across really, really well in an interview. Personal background and attributes. Okay, so I think your personal background is, like I said, I've gone through 5 or 6 interviews with TBB candidates, and I really like the fact that they talked about their life and their challenges and their experiences, and it really shows that it builds character. It gives the person who's interviewing a different version of what and where they are and where you have come from. So I think it's, I wouldn't belabor it. I wouldn't go on and on about it, but I think talking about your world life experiences and how you've come from, whether it's elementary school or high school, or post high school, and your education at a university level, I think it speaks volumes about where you've gone in life and where you've come from, and how it's built character in you. A good interviewer sometimes will dig right back into that background. We used to call it Sherlocking. They'll want to know, you know, maybe go back to your elementary school. What teacher had the biggest impact on your decisions of how you were going to go and what direction you were going to go in education? What jobs you did as a youth. Again, it builds character. You know, did you deliver papers at the age of 12, or were you, you know, doing something else? Every experience, every job experience, no matter how little you think it is, builds character, and good interviewers will get that out of you. I think when you talk about personal experiences, it can be tough area for some people for sure, but showing who you are and how you came and where you are today, the road, the path that you've taken can truly speak to an interviewer. Sharing your story somewhat briefly, again, speaks volumes. How you overcame your challenges, your obstacles, and how that change modified or improved your career path. Again, it tells a very interesting story, and it always speaks from the heart. So it's a good thing to do. And I think if I'm reiterating it, but I think always be true to who you are. Love what you do. Choose a career that will truly make you happy, and it'll never feel like a day's work, for sure. And that's my lovely boss at the top there, Mr. Dan Bergeron. I think Dan should chime in here and say what's he looking for when he's looking for a candidate for SigmaPoint.
Yeah, thank you for joining, Jan. I'll put you on the main screen. I know you joined us a little bit a few minutes ago, so thank you for joining us today. We're happy to have you, and the stage is yours.
Great. Well, listen, Paula captured a lot of the points that I was thinking, so she did a great job there. Thanks, Paula. And I think one of the key elements that I'd maybe just add to that is in an interview, when somebody asks you a question and you're not sure about it, don't be afraid to say, I don't know, but I'm sure I'll find a way to to give you an answer, to get you an answer, right? Humility and not being afraid to say you don't know something, as Paula mentioned, adds to the character and to an individual who just states where they are, right? We're looking for individuals who want to learn, can learn. And obviously, if you're presenting yourselves, you have that ability. So don't be afraid to talk to it. I don't know what I don't know. I hire people who are smarter than me. That's my job. And there's a lot of them around there. But, when you're comfortable about that, you're going to build a very strong team that will support the vision of where we want to go. So that's kind of all I wanted to add to the point. And I'm just, we're very pleased. We love, as Paula mentioned, having a culture in the organization where we're all different. It's really important to us. So I just hope we can have more of you come over. That would be awesome.
And maybe I'll jump in to add, like we really appreciate the work that you've put into hiring some of our candidates. We know it's been a long interview process, and we just want to give a shout out to you for taking a chance on these candidates who have skills but have limitations on how to access the market, because it's companies and leaders like you who help us move this forward and make the case for why we should hire more refugees. So really thank you for everybody at SigmaPoint. And I'm looking forward to other stories from our candidates who make it eventually. But what you just said, Dan, just give me a question maybe you and Paula can answer. So during an interview, I think a part that plays out is how would this candidate fit the company culture? So can you just touch on that? How maybe you define your culture at SigmaPoint, and what makes a candidate, if they both have the same resume, what makes one of them stand out against the other?
Paula, do you want to take that?
Yeah, good question. Great question. Two candidates. Yeah. So it's difficult. I mean, when I'm sitting across, I can read people pretty well, and so if it's a woman, I'm taking the woman. Sorry, I just gotta say that. No, I'm just kidding. It's a difficult thing to have two people side by side and both being equal. I mean, personality comes across. Someone who comes across a little bit more gregarious or outgoing, people, you can find out really quickly if people are adverse to change or are very structured. So somehow when I'm questioning people, I can get that feeling, whether they're very structured, they like their day very organized, or they're chaos, they like chaos. And depending on the job, sometimes you want somebody who can manage chaos, right? That can multitask, most overused word again. But people who aren't afraid to say, I don't know, or I do know and I'm going to jump in and do this and help. I mean, you look for key characteristics and personality traits at an interview to set people aside and set people apart.
Yeah, and let's be honest, right? An interview is 1 hour. It's very difficult to try and decide with all, where that person can go, who they are, right? And that's what we're trying to do. So there's the skill side in terms of what Paula said. We're looking for individuals who have project management, who have an entrepreneurial mindset, right? I started the company, 22 years ago because I just wanted to be able to help individuals and treat our customers correctly and grow a good team. And I'm kind of an entrepreneur, which is, what are the obstacles that are in the way? How can we remove them? So I'm looking for individuals who are not going to present me the problem, but are going to present me a solution to the problem so that we can work together to get to the common goal. So if there's two individuals that are the same, in terms of the culture, I'm looking for somebody who has humility, who's not afraid to say, I don't know, but shows a positive outlook in terms of, well, there's nothing I'm afraid of. I should be able to learn it based on my past, and I'll get to the end of it and fix it. I'm looking for people who are inquisitive, take things apart, want to learn. Those are the key characteristics in terms of our culture. You have to have fun. You spend more time at work than you do at home. So, we want to make sure our candidates come in here and right now it's really tough with the market in terms of the supply chain issues. So it's hard to have fun with all these challenges, but that's kind of what I'm looking for. 75% character, 25% skill, but is willing to learn.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love this answer, and I'm sure that everyone listening is also taking notes right now. We're going to open the Q&A in a bit, but right now, a question, like after we just talked, a question came to mind, a question that we had in the comments when we announced the webinar. So what made SigmaPoint interested in hiring refugees? So right now, you within the team, how do you approach this? What's your expectation? Anything that our candidates can find useful?
Wow. I was introduced to TBB through Tom Kneb. I loved the premise of the organization. I loved the fact that we were going to be helping people. My difficulty at the onset of this is the sheer amount of paperwork that we have to go through to get this approved by Canada. Because again, you have to prove that there are no Canadian candidates to hire for these roles. And I did explain to them at the very early onset that I would find that very difficult to, swear on a Bible that I couldn't find, two Canadian candidates for this role. But that wasn't the reason why I was doing it. The reason why I was doing it is because I wanted to help people. And so I'm not sure if I'm answering the question, but I love the idea that we are able to bring people from another area, another country. They have a desire to learn and a desire to grow and a desire to commit themselves to an organization and grow that organization because they have a good education background, and they're bright. I just think it's the right thing to do, and if we can do it. Morally, ethically, monetarily, we can't afford to do this as an organization. I want to do more of it if I can.
Yeah, to me, it's exactly it, Paul, and it's about opportunities, right? A couple people I know, because I own the business, they would say, man, you're really lucky. And my answer to them was, the harder I work, the luckier I get. So it's more about taking the initiative to want to learn and so forth. But as Paula said, we want to give opportunities to people who perhaps haven't had their share of good opportunities. So I think that's really important to us.
Thank you so much again for the work you do. It really means a lot to our candidates and to us as an organization. And I repeat this again, we really can't wait to hear all the stories when I start with you. So right now, maybe I'll jump to another interesting question, which is a question we had in the comments as well. How do you imagine engineers specifically growing within SigmaPoint? I'm not sure if the question is targeted at like professional growth or growing the organization. So how would you like to address this question?
Whew. Dan.
On the engineering side of it. So the work that we do is, I would say it's a pretty difficult, it's complicated work. We're building circuit cards and so forth. It's not like we do the same thing every day. We get new customers, we get new products. It's constantly evolving. An engineering individual growing in the organization has to, again, be willing to learn based on what it is that we're doing. So there's entry levels, or we can go right up to design if that's required. But it's more in participating and supporting the value streams that we have in an organization. So we have teams set up, and each team needs to be supported with specific personnel, whether it's a purchaser, a buyer, a planner, an engineer, a product engineer, a process engineer. And the growth comes basically on how well they commit themselves to wanting to grow, right? So that's critical for us. Is how much do you want to grow? What's your passion? And where are your strengths?
Thank you so much. We have another, maybe more recruiter addressed question, which is, as a refugee, I have gaps in my experiences. How should I explain this to recruiters?
So gaps meaning that you were out of the workforce for a year or 2 years. They can be explained. You know, you took a break, you went back to school, you had a child, you stayed at home with the child. They're easily explainable, and a good recruiter won't focus on that. They're going to focus on what your world work experience has been about.
Again, just be honest. That's a critical one.
Yeah.
Definitely agree. Another question from Sam in the live section: how do you compare a candidate with a foreign education certificate with a candidate with a certificate from a Canadian university?
Well, there is an organization in Canada that validates the foreign education. So if it's equivalent, I don't judge. If they come in with an equivalency, it's okay for me personally. Absolutely, they would have equal opportunities.
That's
I think
great.
depending on where we are, right? If it depends on when we need them, what's the experience, what's the growth potential, and so forth. Ultimately, with TBB, we're trying to bring on more individuals to give more opportunity. So I think if we had two candidates that are the same, and we fulfill the Canadian requirements, and we say this is what we want, we would move in that direction to get a candidate, from a foreign country.
That's great to know. Thank you so much again. We have a few interesting questions in the chat box. So we have this question from Rawand: as an inexperienced biomedical engineer with about 6 years of various experiences outside of engineering, do you have any advice for Rawand?
Wow. Biomedical engineer, jeepers. Great background. Again, like I said, whether it's chemical, electrical, mechanical, process, it's more of the brain. It's more of the way people are thinking. So depending on the job that you're applying for, if you're applying for a job within the medical field, then you focus on your education if you don't have the experience in biomedical. But if you're just wanting to apply for an engineering role, then you focus on that role that you're applying for and use your background, various backgrounds, whether it's teaching and social work, because though like every experience is worth speaking about because it speaks volumes to you as an individual and what you've done, and it builds character.
And I think there's foundations in all of these engineering positions, right? There's a baseline before you start deciding what you really want to focus on. There's a core value of skill that's required that every engineer would typically have. So I would focus on that part if you're not going into the field that you studied for, because there are common, there's similarities that you would have to look for.
That's great to know. Thank you both. There's another similar question, but I think I'll take this one from Zahra. How can I apply to SigmaPoint? I'm an artificial intelligence engineer. I think I'm going to leave this space for you, but first I would say go to tbbtalent.org, and we're going to do the matching for you. Whenever we have an opportunity that you are suitable for, we're going to put you forward. It's just to show that people are interested in SigmaPoint. So thank you so much, both of you.
No problem.
Looking at the chat box again, we have a question about following up with a recruiter after submitting. Do you have any advice on that, Paula or Dan?
So I'm assuming that a recruiter reached out to you and asked you for your resume. So if that's the case, it's because, again, they're a headhunter. They're trying to fulfill a certain role, and they're probably gaining anywhere from 15 to 30 resumes, leafing through them, and trying to get the best fit for who's hired them as the recruiter. So I would give it a week and maybe just follow up to see if there's any other questions that you can answer for them. Is there any clarity that you can bring to them with respect to the role that they're searching for? It doesn't hurt. I would say one call. I wouldn't do 3 or 4. I mean, they always say squeaky wheel gets the oil, but sometimes the recruiters, they're so crunched for time. And again, they're spending hours reading resumes. So keep your resume short and sweet. Let it speak to the position to which they're looking for. But yeah, give it a week and then follow up with a quick call.
I would say have a limit of 3. I would, to me, it's not me, but if there are people that want, they want it, they're going to be persistent, and that would be a key characteristic that would tell me, but you have to balance between you're bothering them and you're showing that you have the willingness to execute and complete.
Yeah.
It's a fine line, but yeah, to everybody listening, use your judgment.
That's right.
We have a TBB specific question. So in the TBB process, what made the candidates you chose at SigmaPoint stand out? Because I know we sent you a couple of resumes, and what made certain people stand out in the TBB context?
Wow, great question. Now you're trying to make me think back about 8 or 9 months. Actually, I don't know if any one of them really stood out. I mean, they all had a great education background. They were all engineers. Some were more IT. Not IT. 2 were mechanical. A couple of them were electrical. One was chemical. I interviewed them all because I couldn't decide, because that's just me. I didn't want to play favorite, so I met them all. And like I was telling you, Naeem, I would have hired them all if I could, but Dan's budget only allowed me for 2. So
yeah. To me, anyways, I have an 8:46 meeting every day, and I've had it for almost 17 years now. And Paula would come into my office after interviewing, and she'd say, "Man, you should see these individuals. Oh, the education they have. Oh my gosh, they're doing their interview in a tent. It's their life stories that they've gone through is amazing." So that's the kind of stuff that really fired Paula up in terms of what the interviewer and what the candidates brought to the table.
Yeah, I would have adopted the one, but I couldn't. He could have been my son.
Well,
I just tell you, all of the candidates, all of the candidates were very well educated. We did 3 rounds of interviews with them. So it just came down to what we felt was the best fit for what we were looking for. So, yeah.
Well, thank you both. We have an interesting question for Jan, also in the comments. So what made you start SigmaPoint instead of having a regular job?
That's a really good question. I worked, I guess I was an individual that always worked very hard. I always came in before my boss and left after my boss. I was putting in long hours of work. And at one point I said, the effort that I'm putting in has to, kind of pay back to me over time. So that was kind of my entrepreneurial character. I'm the youngest individual of 11 kids. So I had a lot of freedom growing up. And my parents didn't keep too much of an eye on me. So I was really always looking at things and interested in finding out more about how things work. So when I started working at the previous company before I left, there was a point where I felt they didn't care enough about the individuals and they didn't care enough about the customers. So basically, put all those together. And when I was 37, I decided to get a couple partners and start a company. And with no employees and no customers, and today we're 260 employees and about 25 key solid customers. So that's kind of what drove me to start the company.
Well, that's a beautiful story. We're so glad you started SigmaPoint. At least I know I speak for everybody here. So now we also have another question about the role of project management. So Paula, you've mentioned that project management skills are necessary. Joy is asking, maybe I would rephrase the question, how are project management skills relevant to engineers nowadays?
So again, this is something that we've come across over the last about 18 months. Where again, it's the way they're thinking, the fact that they can take a project from start to finish. It's the method of how they do things. Again, it's how their brain is working and keeping things in line, doing the follow-up, keeping an action register, doing their Gantt charts. It speaks volumes to not just the internal stakeholders here, their customers or internal customers, but the external customers. They really like to see that things are organized and are going to happen in a sequential order. So I've made this recommendation to St. Lawrence College here about 3 years ago, and since then they have developed the project management course. They are offering it here at the Cornwall campus. And actually people can take it online as well, because it's super helpful, not just at work, but you'll have that background and that knowledge for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and there's tool sets that comes with being a project manager that are critical. The other thing that I would have to say on the project management side is how well you can take a lot of inputs, sort through them to determine which are the most important ones. And a critical element in our industry is how quickly you respond to a customer. So if a customer sends you something, you don't want to wait 2 weeks before you answer to them. It's that response, customer service that we're looking for, and how do you manage with all these moving parts to be able to decide which is important, which will cause issues if they're not addressed immediately, and so forth. So it's having that mindset to be able to triage, go through, pick the ones that are important, making sure that the customer feels like he's being serviced like no other customer.
Thank you both. So I kind of understand it's the skills and also the mindset. And I feel like this would apply everywhere you go, not just in engineering. So it's pretty solid advice for everybody here listening. I think this was the last question from the comments. I'm gonna give a few more minutes if anybody has any more questions for either Dan or Paula. But I'm going to take this time to thank you both for your time today. It really means a lot to us as an organization and also to our candidates that you're investing time and resources in giving a chance to these skilled engineers, these skilled people, and give them a chance to relocate and use their skills to contribute to SigmaPoint, to Canada, and to their families as well. So we're very happy to have you here with us. I don't see any more questions here. I'm just going to go ahead and remind everybody if they have any questions, you can reach out to us on Facebook through the messages. You can send us an email to info@timebeyondboundaries.org. And if you didn't register yet, please go to tbbtalent.org and register yourself. We're going to do the job to match you with employers, brilliant ones like SigmaPoint, based on your skills, whether you're an engineer, a doctor, whatever your occupation is, there's always a chance for you. So I guess this concludes our webinar for today. I'm going to leave the space to you, Paula and Dan, if you have any closing remarks before we wrap this up.
I just want to thank you, Naeem, for organizing this. I think it's wonderful. And Rayanne in the background, thank you so much for asking me to participate today and helping. If I've helped one person, I've done my job today. So it makes me feel good that I'm helping individuals out there look for different opportunities and better opportunities here in Canada.
Yeah, and I just look forward to meeting the individuals and give the feedback on how well it's going and so forth. So it's a pleasure meeting you, and thanks for all the efforts put forth to have this presentation. Very much appreciated.
Thank you for everything. We're also very, very excited to hear the good news. But yeah, in the meantime, have a great rest of your day. I know it's snowing, so I hope you're staying warm. And yeah, we look forward to working with you again and speaking with you soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Naeem. Take care.
Thanks.